Hi everyone, how's it going? Clifton here with another live stream. Hope you're good, hope you're well wherever you are in the world. I took the Sony A7 III out with me, this bad boy. So I got the 35mm G Master, we've got the tilty screen on the back of the Sony A7 III, we've got Rode video micro with what do they call this, dead cat on top to protect it from the wind noise. Variable ND filter, which I was supposed to cut down on the light because when I went out to do a vlog, Casey Neistat style, it was very bright and very sunny, and I wanted some bokeh happening. And to do that with video, you need to have a way to cut down the ambient light around you. So that's why we got the ND filter on there. And I shot around about f1.4. It was a little too shallow. I didn't think I could ever say that, but yeah, everything in the background was completely blurry. I think I had it 2.8, 4.5 at one point. It's just crazy how much background blur you can get with full frame versus what I was used to on the old Micro Four Thirds ecosystem. So yeah, I thought let's try and do a vlog today. Took this gear out with me, got the tripod there as well. It was very windy, very cold. I was freezing my butt off. And I tried to do a vlog at a local park called Victoria Park in Auckland, but there are people walking around everywhere. I'm just not used to it. Been a while since I've done one of these things. Getting the camera out, looking like a bit of an egg, you know, kind of thinking, hey everybody, how's it going? So yeah, one of the bad things about these cameras is you can't see yourself, which is something I wasn't used to. With the GH5, you've got the fully articulating screen, so you can see if you're in frame, if the composition's okay, and also the lighting and everything. So there were several takes I took that were just off. You know, I cut off the top of my head, or I was in shadow, so you couldn't see me at all, and various things like that. But at the end of it, the audio suffered the most. It's been a while since I've done one of these. I think I did one maybe a few years ago on my travel account. It's just too windy, and with the 35mm I had to get the camera back to fit me in some of the background in the frame, whereas I think something like a 24mm, then I could get the microphone closer so you could hear me. So there was an experience. I learned a lot from it, very educational. But yeah, I think I would need maybe like a wireless microphone or a recorder, separate recorder, something like that if I wanted good audio with this kind of setup. But it was more of a test just to see how it would go with this camera. The quality looked much better. While I did the vlog, I did some time lapses, something that I haven't done before with this camera. I wanted to see how the Sony A7 III would perform in terms of time lapses, so I gave that a go. I've already tested this out with these particular photos, so I know these ones work really well. I'm looking at a folder within my projects drive, and I'm just going to drag all the raw files onto Photoshop like this. What they'll do is they'll open all those raw files up in Camera Raw. Takes a few seconds for it to do that. Hopefully the computer won't explode, and this will be the last stream ever. Now this is just one single frame of about, how many, 40? So if you're new to time lapses, don't really know how they work, if you've got a Sony camera, I think the process is similar with other brands. What I did in the A7 III was very similar to how I did it in the GH5. What I tried out first was using the settings that a YouTube video recommended, and that was to put your camera into aperture priority mode. The type of time lapse this guy was doing was from day to night. That's what he called it. I'm familiar with that term being when you convert something that looks like daytime to look like nighttime. So when he said that, that's what I thought he meant. But what he meant was starting a time lapse when it's daytime and then for it to continue until it's nighttime. We took a detour from this topic into how I set up my Sony A7 III to do time lapses. In the menu for camera settings, we want to go through to the 4th page. There you'll find interval shooting function. Go to interval shooting, make sure that's on. Under shooting start time, I had this set to 2 seconds. Same for the shooting interval. Total number of shots, I set this to 60, then finally AE tracking sensitivity to mid. After some experimenting, I switched from aperture priority into manual. I had my shutter speed at 1/4 of a second, aperture at f5.6, and my ISO 100. If I kept it in the settings that the YouTube video recommended, and that's where you've got an aperture priority mode, it adjusts the shutter speed in order to lighten and darken things in your scene. For me, what I like to do is maintain a certain amount of motion blur with people walking, traffic moving. If you set to aperture priority mode, it's actually going to adjust the amount of blur that's occurring between each of these shots, which is not something that I want for the type of time lapses I'm doing. So maybe if you are doing landscape where motion blur doesn't really matter to you, then the aperture priority mode would be a better option. So in my case, I probably have to set it to auto ISO to compensate for light changes. But in this case, we were okay. It was very short. I think in total it's about 1 minute from start to end. We're going to edit this like normal. We're just going to start with one photo. We're going to adjust the highlights. Going to go -11, 42 for shadows, -11 for the whites, -23 for the blacks, contrast 14, and we're still clipping in the highlights. We're going to go to the curve tab, and then we're going to pull down the highlights from the top right hand corner, so it's not clipping anymore. I think we're looking good. Much better. And then what we can do is mess around with some other values to get a look that we like. Let's bump up our vibrance. We're going to go with 14, 7. Okay, texture, we're going to add a bit. So 14, 7, and 4. We'll just say we're good where it is at the moment. It's fine. Probably want to add in our optics to adjust for profile corrections and remove chromatic aberration. It sort of bulges in the middle a little bit, so it's going to adjust for that. And then maybe what we could do is we could apply a profile. We're going to go down to the modern section. Let's go with modern 5, and then we're going to dial down the amount a smidge. Something like this. Got a bit of a dreamy look on our edit. So I'm going to select our thumbnail for the first one, press Ctrl C, I'm going to copy the visual look settings and everything from that one. I'm going to select the next image, and then I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom and then press Shift. So I've selected everything, and then it's Ctrl V. So that's going to do its thing. It's going to process all those photos, apply the same look to all of them. And because they're all shot around the same time, there shouldn't be that much difference between each of these photos. So we'll just go to the very first one, press backslash to see what it looked like before, as after. We'll go to the next photo, next one, next one. Cool, those look good. Probably do more, but what we're going to do from here is we're going to go to this little burger menu here, and then save image, which is going to save using default settings, so as a JPEG. What that'll do is just save all the photos in the same folder as your originals. If you create a preset, you can actually move all your saved files into a subfolder. So we don't really need anything here. We can just exit out of these. Cancel. So what you want to do next is to go File, Open. So here we have our exports. I've moved them into a folder called Selects. We're just going to select the very first one, which will be this one here. And down the bottom here, well, okay, try that again. Down the bottom here, you'll have image sequence. So we just need to select the first one, click Open. Yes, we want the frame rate to be 30 frames per second. So click OK. And it'll open up this view. Now, if you can't see this, you want to make sure your workspace is set to motion, because you want to be able to play this back within Photoshop. Exit out of our crop view. Now, what it'll do is it'll render things out so they'll be smoother once it is completed. Okay, now there you go. Editing Cliff here with the final step in this whole process, which is how to save your time-lapse video to your computer. It's actually really simple. Firstly, go to the File menu, Export and Render Video. If you're new to this, here's what I entered for the settings. Enter a file name and where to save it on your computer. I kept most of the default settings the same, like using the Adobe Media Encoder with a format of H.264 and a preset of high quality. For the size, I went with HDTV 1080p because my time-lapse images were too large to use document size, but you might have other options available to you. And finally, I kept the frame rate the same, 30 frames per second. Otherwise, everything else I left as is. Click render and you're done. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please leave a comment, like and subscribe. See you next time.